What's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
I'm Jason.
And you are listening to a milestone Liquid Kernedge.
I know. How you doing, my friend? Good to hear your voice.
Oh, it's just as good to hear yours, sir. This is a big day, Jason. How far we've come.
I know.
In 2 years.
I know. We're making headway, and through the ups and downs, the tops and turns, all the stuff that goes on in our lives. This is an important release today. And why is it important, Scotty?
It is our 100th episode.
Wow, 100 episodes. That means that we have had listeners for 100 weeks, almost 2 years now.
Almost 2 years. Yeah, we are coming close to our 2-year mark, the end of season 2 of Liquid Kernedge. Dude, this is amazing. This is cool. Be honest with me. When we started this trek, well over 2 years ago, because we started talking about this probably February of 2017.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you think we'd actually make it this far?
I didn't know if the podcast was going to make it once I left Kingman. That was my biggest concern. But then we figured out we had a couple of technical difficulties, but we figured it out, and every day we grow. It's like our podcast. We just grow every day.
Evolution. I think that's the biggest thing. That's the biggest piece of survival. It's being willing to evolve and adapt. Or adapt.
Exactly. Exactly. And times they are changing. I mean, things change and topics change, and we've always tried to stay current, but we've also tried to just lighten things up with some light topics. So we've tried to play the smorgasbord. But 100 episodes, dude. Just think about it. That's 100. That's 100 times where we had to come up with a topic that was going to be new or different or something that our fans and our listeners could relate to.
Let's be real. That's 100 episodes of topics that we knew Tom was not going to like one way or the other.
Yeah, no. And sometimes it's a hit or miss with Tom. Sometimes we nail it and sometimes we fail it.
Yeah. So, yeah. But that's part of the process. But I want to hear from the fans, all 4 of you. What is your favorite Liquid Kernedge episode after 2 years, 100 episodes? Our 2-year anniversary is coming up. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Kernedge. And just to make Tom feel special, what are your favorite Swear Trek gifts over the last 2 years that Tom has posted? Hit him up at liquid_EP at Twitter and Instagram.
You do it so well, too. You always do the plug so well.
I try to. I take great pride in making sure people know where to find us on the social medias, because I have taken it upon himself to step up our Facebook game, trying to add some topics and some more levity, because life gets busy for us. So we don't always get a chance to, what's the best way to put it? We don't always get a chance to keep things as current on social media as we'd like to,
as I reminisce about these 99 episodes before, I actually spent some time going through and researching the topics that we've covered. And, we've gone from, relationships, and we've gone to politics, and we've gone to, drunk histories, and we've gone to, relationships with transgender people. I mean, we have touched so many different topics that I think it's wild to think that after all that time and all those different topics that we've kept it at least fresh, that it's not the same talk again and again and again and again.
I know. And there's been a lot of times I've been concerned that we were going to have the same conversation we had, 6 months ago about the same topic. But no, man, it turns out the world is an evolving plate, just like our show, that we always have something new, fun, and dumb to talk about.
Yeah, and it seems like when I get comments and feedback from our listeners, from you guys, I get the same thing, that they may not get agree or talk about all the things we talk about, but something in the podcast speaks to them. Or gets them thinking about something. And I mean, to have that ability to have a conversation like a podcast, but also to reach out to listeners and to people who care about us and care about listening. I mean, it makes you feel really good.
It does. And it's nice to know that people, the one consistent comment I've heard over the last 99 episodes is that it sounds like we're 2 guys talking in a bar, just bullshitting. And at the end of the day, one of the first things we talked about when we wanted to start this show was the feeling we wanted to give, because the original name of the show was Barguments.
It was.
That's the Liquid Kernedge pub quiz fact. We were going to originally call this show Barguments, and it was already taken. It's actually already a defunct podcast that never went anywhere. But when we found out we couldn't we couldn't use that name, we came up with Liquid Kernedge, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think that that obviously you and I are also, the thing I love about the podcast is what motivates our themes for a podcast week different. Like I would love to go into more of the political side and the social inequalities of life, and you'd rather hear great jokes and stories from your bartender.
I'd rather
I
talk
think
about
that's I
dating
I
and
think that's the
drinking, and
best part.
you want to talk about saving the world. I think it's the perfect pairing for hosts. It's just two
I
very
know.
different personalities.
I
But
know.
the nice thing is that we're both very adept at either conversation's direction.
Yeah, this last weekend, we had a 3 generational party. We went to Austin to see Noreen's grandson, and so it was the grandma, and my nickname for the grandson is Grand Dude, because we already have Grand Dude, because we already have grandpas, and they didn't want to confuse it, so I'm Grand Dude.
Oh, that works.
Yeah, so but you had the us old people, right, and then you had the parents who are in their early 30s. I guess that's Generation X.
No,
Millennials.
They're millennials. They're
Millennials. Okay, they're millennials. And then we had this little baby that's going to grow up in his own generation. Who knows what those kids are going to be like?
Oh my God, right?
But it gets you thinking that you can have all 3 of these generations together, but at the end of the day, we all get along, man.
Yeah, you have to. That's what family's about. At the end of the day, no matter what you do, blood is blood, and it's sangre y sangre is the saying, and that's you can hate them all you want, but you can't choose them. They're there. You're bonded to them, so you might as well make the best of it.
Well, and it's so easy though, because you can have the young whippersnappers that will look at an old person like me and say, "You don't get life, man. You're old. You don't get it. You don't understand. You don't understand the pains I'm going through." And then you got the old people are like, "Oh, you're just a young puppy. What do you know? You don't know anything about life." Blah blah blah. So that common thought process that goes back and forth between old people, young people, that if young people realize, hey, I was young once too, I know exactly what you're experiencing. And if old people say, they might be younger, but they have a different look on life, they can teach us something about life to get us excited about moving forward as we get old and crotchety.
I'll tell you what, you're absolutely right. Just in my world, I've taken over a new department, a volunteer department in my organization, and I've got older volunteers and I've got teenage volunteers, and just kind of like that middle generation you talked about, that party, that's where I'm at. But I have to manage those personalities. And instead of having like 5 or 10 at a party like you might have, I have 130 and growing.
Oh my goodness. And they're all different. Yeah, that's right. Because you could have people that are in their 90s, right? Volunteering.
Exactly. I mean, everyone's got a different age level. Everyone's got a different opinion on how things should be done and how the world works, man. And they're giving their time for free. So you have to be very, I don't want to say leery, but careful about how you say things and how you present things, because how I present to a teenager is completely different than how I present to someone that's in their 60s or 70s versus someone in their 90s.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's just it's a fine balance, man. And that generational talk and being able to talk to the different generations and be open to the ideas of both sides, because the world was built on the older generation, but it's going to grow based on the newer generation.
Well, that's funny you say that, because there was when I worked at my old company before I'm working where I am now, our boss talked about that did a presentation about the problems with having basically 4 different generations in a workforce at the same time. That you have the people that were like my parents' age who are still working, who are basically, you work a full day and you don't, you basically, you get your job done and you work hard, and, you don't do a lot of jib jabbering and talking and having fun. You're there to work, but they also are thankful for a job. Right.
Yeah.
Then you have my generation, which was, hey, I constantly want to be recognized. All I want you to do is recognize that I'm doing the good work, recognize I'm doing the good work. Then you got the millennial generation is, hey, I want it right now. I want it immediate. If you're not going to give it to me, I'm going to go somewhere else because I want to be recognized right now. That's, who cares about staying in a place for 40 years? That's not what I do. And then you're going to have this young generation who, at the least amount of work and give me the most amount of money.
Yeah. Well, I agree. And I would argue that's the millennial generation, because you figure there's the baby boomers who should be retiring or trying to retire right now. You're considered Gen X, right?
I think so. Yeah, I'm considered Gen X because I'm not baby boomer yet.
Yeah, so I think there's the baby boomers that are just coming out of the workforce that are still kind of hanging on because they blew their retirement options. There's Gen X. I'm considered a Xennial, which is between Gen X and the millennials. And then there's the millennial workforce, which is the I want it now, and I don't want to work hard for it. And I'm kind of in there with you. I identify more with the Gen Xers, man. I'll work. I have no problem working 40 hours. I can get my job done well before that, but you want me to be there, I'll be there. I'd rather just let me do my job as it needs to be done, and don't worry about how it gets done.
Have you ever been around like an older person who's like totally surprised you that they're like, wow, man, you're like cool? Because, I've met a lot of older people that you think they're old, but they're actually very active and they got life and they got vitality.
Oh, yeah.
And even more so than sometimes myself. I mean, it's like they're ready to go and have a good time and, party it up. And some of the stories that they have, it's fun to listen to.
Oh, yeah. I run into that all the time. I was talking to one of our volunteers today. She's probably in her early 80s, but she has the mentality of like late 50s, early 60s. And she's very quick-witted still. She had that very young vibe to her.
Yeah.
And the story she was telling about how she's a lead foot and her car might be 23 years old, but can still get up and get to 100 miles an hour because that's what she does. She goes to see her family in California and talking about getting pulled over for speeding tickets and, how things were when she was working back in the workforce. It was just a very interesting conversation, but she was very lively about it and wanted to learn about how we do things today and how I come to my decisions on my decision-making processes. It's a good rapport because it gives me something to learn from too.
So when what are the motivations behind the volunteers that work for you, especially when you talk about these different age groups? I mean, I can understand an older person maybe if they're retired and just want to help out and do something, but do you see like trends of reasons why these people volunteer at all ages? I mean, like you said, you have teenagers all the way up to 90.
Yeah, like the older generation is pretty easy. Like they're retired, they want to give back, they want something to do. Maybe they had a family member that was affected by my organization, so they wanted to give back in some way, shape, or form. The teenagers, we have a requirement here in Kingman about community service. They have to have at least 40 hours of community service to graduate.
Mm-hmm.
So we get a lot of them through that. And some work their 40 hours and they're done. Others, stick around because they want to be in the medical field. So some are doing it because they have to do it so they can graduate. And others doing it because they actually want to pursue a job in the field they're volunteering in. So you get a lot of different vibes, and then I actually have some that are our age too that are doing it just because they want something to do. I mean, they could be stay-at-home parents or whatever else, but they want to give back some way.
I guess there's something to be said about when you volunteer a place, you're actually volunteering to be there, not for the paycheck. So
yeah,
hopefully you're not doing it because you're forced to be there. You want to be there.
Yeah, and that's something I have to remind myself quite a bit when I'm talking to these guys and as I talk to other, directors in my organization is you have to remember they're giving their time to be here. They don't have to be here. They could be literally anywhere else, but they chose to be here with us, and we need to appreciate that. So, plus they're working for free. So also appreciate the fact that they're giving back. So it's, it's a give and take. It's a learning curve, but I was raised around that though too. Tom will attest that our grandma was a volunteer there for 30 some odd years, and we were raised around it. So it's second nature to me. You're there for the service. You want to give back. You want to do the best job you can giving back, and you have to have a good attitude about it too. And that's what surprises me. Is some people think, let me rephrase that. I've been doing volunteer work for the last probably 10, 12 years because of my jobs. They require me to be out in the community, and a lot of people in the communities that I've worked with between here, Bullhead, Phoenix, Vegas, some people feel entitled, like. If they're volunteering, you need to appreciate the fact that they're there giving their time, and you need to demand they demand the respect, and they should be heard no matter what. And that's an adjustment,
Yeah, I guess it's hard. My I could see why people say, "Look, I don't have to be here. So if I'm going to be here, then treat me with the respect that I deserve."
Yeah,
Or do you think it's like an entitlement, like I volunteer, so I should be treated like a deity of some sort?
I think it's a lot of the ones I've run into just over the years, just in my travels, have been, I volunteer and I've been doing this long enough. You're going to hear my opinion whether you want to hear it or not. And as far as I'm concerned, you can state your opinion, but if I'm the one running the show on any level, that's all you're going to do. I'm going to ultimately do what I think is best, especially now. So everyone's got their ideas of how they're going to operate it, but I'm the one answering to the powers that be at the end of the day. So I have to make the best decision I can.
Well, we've heard about that cautionary tale where, someone retires after 45 years at a place and they don't have something to look forward to after they retire.
Yeah.
And then they're dead in 6 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's like, if you don't have anything so maybe some of these volunteers, basically it's like, hey, I've got to do something. I can't just watch TV until Father Time, takes me, that it gives them a chance to, get out, meet new people.
Oh yeah. I thought for sure when both my parents retired, they'd either be volunteering or back to work within 6 months, and they found plenty of things to do to keep them busy. And now I'm convinced they'll never go back to work or volunteer at that fact, which is fine. It's not for everybody. But let me ask you this though: when you're able to retire, because you're always tinkering, trying to figure out how to retire early. If you can't retire early, or even at the age you're supposed to, would you consider volunteering or giving back if you could?
Yeah, I've thought about that more and more as I've got. I mean, it's funny, as you get older, you do think about that. That when I look at where I've been, I mean, I feel pretty blessed. I mean, I've had a pretty good life. I think I would want to volunteer, though, in areas that I'm passionate about. And as I've gotten older, those passions have become a little bit more clear to me. I've never been one of those type of people. Like, some people just know what they're going to do the rest of their lives. They just know, I want to work with animals. So anything with volunteer with animals, I'm going to do that because I love that, or, whatever. I haven't really found that kind of passion, but as I've gotten older, I know that my passions are starting to get more inclined. Like, I think that I would definitely be interested or open to doing one of those Big Brother programs where you take a kid for a year or 2 years and you become a big brother to them.
Oh yeah. That has ironically been one of the best dating scams our buddy Dean and I used to run. So I think that's a great idea.
I think maybe if you wanted to at some point in the conversation tonight, you could explain the scam to our listeners, so that one, they can see what a tool and mean person you were, not now, but you were. Yeah,
I'm mature.
And two, like a public service announcement to protect these listeners from the potential scam that could be out there.
Absolutely.
But we can save that. You can volunteer that later. You can volunteer that later.
I'll volunteer that information later on.
Yeah, I would have to volunteer doing something. I mean, even when I was doing the work for the play, like the theater, I really enjoyed. It was a lot of work, but I enjoyed that part of it because, one, I got to do something that I personally enjoyed doing, and two, everything that we ever put together, I felt like I was contributing toward something that someday will be bigger than myself.
Yeah.
Like, even though I'm not there anymore, I know that part of my handprint or part of my fingerprint will be on the building of what becomes Beale Street Theater.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of stuff. You want to, I don't want to say leave a legacy, but that's what I feel like I want to do, is leave a mark where, he was here on this earth and he was part of something.
Yeah. And I think that's what everyone wants to do at the end of the day is to leave their mark in some way, shape, or form. To want to be remembered for something, whether it was something great. Well, they'd rather be remembered for something good or something great than something rather embarrassing. But I think that's the goal in life for most people, is if you're going to live a good life, you want to leave your mark that people look back at you and say, you know what, that's so Jason did that or Scott did that. And maybe that's what Liquid Kernedge does right now. This is basically a volunteer gig because we can't get paid to do this to save our lives right now.
Hell, I almost got fired from a volunteer gig. What are you, crazy?
Right?
I almost got fired.
But in a way, though, this is our mark. This is one of the marks we're going to leave on what we do in this world. Is people 15 years from now, if iTunes is still around or Podbean or however the world works with podcasts, we'll be able to look up Liquid Kernedge and hear us rambling on for 30 minutes at a time for at least 100 episodes. If not more.
Well, I don't know. You think about this in our society, we are so much a society of, you know, not greed is good, but basically you work hard so you can build better life for yourself and a better life, you know, for your family. And you work hard so you make more money and have the nicest things in the world. And yet what does most people respect more than anything else? The philanthropic, I'm giving it away, or I'm giving my time to donate. You know, people, you know, even though we live in the society that's built on get as much as you can, as much as you can, we really value that idea of giving back and giving to people who can't help themselves, and you know, taking care of those people. And so, you know, I think it's kind of hand in hand with capitalism and that concept of build, but also to give.
Well, I think you're right. As we get older, we realize that we spend all of our lives trying to build this, you know, wealth or legacy, but at the end of the day, you can't take it with you. You have to feel good about yourself, and your conscience has to be clear. And that's why some people give back, or why they give back is because they want to feel like they have a clear conscience. They've done something to leave a positive mark on this world.
Do you think that more people would volunteer? I mean, I wonder sometimes if, because volunteering is not it's not like the recognition of being wealthy or recognition of having a nice house, a nice car is very out there in your face. You know, it's very visible. Donating and giving to the poor, and sometimes that's not like a recognizable thing that people go, oh my gosh, what a great person for doing that. It's kind of like it's not as visible to the people around you. I wonder if that's why, you know, the idea of volunteering, we have such a reverence for it, because it's not as visible to people that you're a volunteer, and that the recognition is not as easy to see.
Yeah, you know, I would if I ever gave to something financially, I don't look for the recognition for that. I don't go out doing what I do looking for the recognition. But if I was gonna have any kind of recognition for something I was working on, I'd want it to be more or less about the program, to draw attention to the program, to hopefully find more donors or more people that want to help. You know.
Well, and I think the other thing is, like the theater, you know, you're not going to see it right away. You know, sometimes the seed that you plant when you do the Big Brother or you give to something, it might be 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So it's not an immediate gratification. It's something that was a life of service that led 20 years later to this. And look what started from that thing 20 years ago.
I agree. I think that should be the goal. That should be the plan. And, you know, I appreciate anybody that wants to give their time and help in any way, shape, or form, anything they do. You know, you take a look at our world, and our world is run by volunteers. I mean, little leagues, soccers, you know, after school programs, you know, churches. And the volunteers are the backbone of our social society. You know, most people get paid to operate the corporations or do the jobs, but it takes a volunteer to do the things that keep the communities.
Yeah, I mean, I think that when we conceptualize it, it's easy to understand someone doing something that's purely selfish for themselves, right? I mean, it's easy to understand. It's hard to justify why you're doing something to great lengths for no gain for yourself. Like, I think about some of the doctors that I used to work with who would go overseas to like poor countries. They would take, you know, 2 weeks off, 3 weeks off, leave a very successful practice, very lucrative life, simply to go work in another poor country to help, you know, people they don't even know. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it's easy to get why they would work for themselves. It's even more appreciative when they go and volunteer for people, you know, who they don't know.
I agree. I think it's, you know, it speaks to something deeper in their soul.
Yeah. You know? Now, I don't volunteer enough right now. I'll give you that. I don't volunteer enough.
But you're in a transitional period in your life. You're still trying to get established down in Phoenix. You're trying to buy a house. You're still trying to learn the lay of the land. I mean, I get it. I mean, another year, though, you'd better be out doing something.
I better volunteer for something,
Otherwise, this whole conversation was all for naught. You know,
I know.
Jason's got 99 problems with volunteering A1.
Yeah, we're two of the shysters that don't volunteer. So we're part of the problem, not part of the solution.
Exactly. Exactly.
And a lot of people who go to church, they have volunteer programs within the church, so it's easy to do volunteer programs like through a church like that, because you're with your church family.
Yeah.
And then, hey, by the way, like I remember when we used to do the Clothe the Kid.
Yeah.
Now, I know we didn't get paid to do that, but we had a good time doing that.
Yeah,
And to see
it's
the
all
little
about who you're
kids
doing
get
it with.
all excited, right? The
Yeah.
little kids got so friggin' excited about, buying the presents and doing that, and it felt good. We felt good about doing it.
Yeah, and sometimes it came down to just doing the things like that with your friends that you could see made a difference in your community. And I don't think people realize that enough, how much of an impact that makes on some people.
Well, and like you said, I mean, what if just one kid comes out of that and says, that moment changed my life? Because
Exactly.
it happens, right?
Exactly.
We don't know what the impact of a moment is on our lives at that moment. It's when we look back. And, to think that one of those kids said, you know what, I volunteer now because someone volunteered with me all those years ago, or they made me feel good when I wasn't feeling good, whatever the reason is. So, paying it forward, you're right. That does have an impact. We just don't know where or when sometimes, but it does have an impact.
Yep, I agree completely. And that's half the fun of life, though, too. It's giving back and feeling that feeling when you give back.
Well, and I know that I get selfish because I love hearing myself talk, but at the end of the day, I do really. I'm so thankful and grateful of the people that listen to us week in, week out. For now, this will be their 100th time listening to us.
Right. Thank you.
You know what I mean? Like it makes you feel good. Like one small little part that you guys are volunteering your time to listen to us and have a good time with us, and we're volunteering our time to build a connection with you guys. It's just great. I mean, yeah. I do. Actually, what a great topic for our 100th episode.
Yeah, you're right. And I want to ask the people for one more thing on our social media. What is your earliest Liquid Kernedge memory? Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. Just tell us, what's your earliest Liquid Kernedge memory? What was the first episode that got you hooked? How did you find out about us? Or what was your first impression of Tom? Hit him up at liquid_EP. I'm probably more interested in that than I am about us, but teach their own.
Teach their own. That's right. Scott, can you think of one episode that was it a corner turning for you that said, oh man, this is legit?
I go back to Deal Breakers.
Okay.
Susie. I think that was a great one early on for us, and we were able to actually record in the same room and bring in guests and talk and figure that out. I thought it was just a great setup for us, and that really gave me legitimacy to what we were doing. That this is working. This is something that could be good for us.
Yeah, we had a lot of great episodes. Mine that was the turning point where I said, okay, this is now like something I'm going to have to keep doing was, Are We Facebook Official?
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but just the openness of that conversation, it just said, wow, this is why we do this. This is really cool, and I love that our topics at some level touch on something that we can all relate to. So.
Yeah, the episode a lot of people don't know. Another Liquid Kernedge fact for our 100th episode is that we were asked to actually do a local radio show 5 days a week based on this show.
And if I had not moved, we would have. If I had not moved,
had you not moved, we were working on making that happen. The problem is they wanted it during drive time, middle of the day, and we both have regular jobs that would have paid a whole lot better. But it's an option, though. It was still happening. I don't think a lot of people realize that. So we do want to thank everyone out there that's listened to us, that appreciates the time we take to do this. It's always a lot of fun for us to record every week. So we thank you for being with us on this journey, and I can't wait to see where we go from here.
Couldn't have said it better myself, my friend.
I appreciate that. So before we wrap it up, I do want to circle back to the Big Brothers pickup game that our buddy Dean and I used to run.
Oh, yeah.
Mind you, this was in my younger days. I was in my 20s at the time.
Yeah, so you were really young.
I was a young. It was well over 10 years ago. Our buddy Dean and I would go to the bars quite a bit. And Dean's older than I am, so by 10 years. So we would go to the bars. He's just out of a divorce, and we would just start talking. And he and I have always had. And you were part of this chemistry too. any combination of the three of us together, we could riff on anything and control the bar within, a few minutes, just of making people laugh and having a good time. And one night we were at the bar and we just started going with it that some lady asked how Dean and I met, and she was older than Dean. She was a cougar, and
before really cougar was even like a big topic.
Yeah,
she was just an elderly woman who looked like she wanted to have a good time.
Yeah. She was interested, and she asked how Dean and I met. And I proceeded to tell her the story, how Dean and I met in this Big Brother program where I was a troubled youth and Dean was this mentor. And, Dean would take some time to, hear my problems, work with me, just try to get him to be a decent teenager, human being. And we went on this hike down the Grand Canyon, and along the hike at the bottom, Dean tripped and broke his ankle. So I had to carry Dean up 3 miles on my back from the Grand Canyon, to get medical attention. And this woman ate it up. I mean, she put her name in my phone as her name, the Cougar, and left it there. And it was one of those things that Dean and I joked about forever. And it just one of the stories that makes us is that he and I could back each other's story like that without even knowing what it was.
I got to admit, you and Dean have a friendship that has many points of entry that were pretty special, man. Yeah. It was pretty special.
I think that one cemented the fact that we could wingman for each other anytime. We were the Maverick and Goose of our generation.
That's right. So
that is how we use the Big Brother program for our advantage.
What a great volunteer program too, right? Helping cougars all over the world.
Right. That being said, Jason, why don't you go ahead and take us home?
All right. Hey, everyone, thanks very much for listening to our 100th episode. We appreciate you. We love you. Have a great rest of your day and your week. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Kernedge.